Oh, yeah. Welcome on in. How's it, brother? It is the Morning Combat Instant Analysis Reaction. A little bit after midnight on the East Coast. The calendar just turning to Sunday, July 17th, 2022. I'm your captain, right? Closer to home, it is your boy BC, the Brian Campbell. But tonight was all about Ryan Garcia on this Saturday, taking on veteran Javier Fortuna. Maybe build as potentially the biggest step up in Rye Guy's career. And one final quick disclaimer. If you somehow came to this video looking to avoid spoilers of the Garcia Fortuna outcome, maybe you can re-examine your life, because this was a step forward in the growth of all things King Rye Guy himself, just 23 years old. And in the end, a 6th round TKO over the 33-year-old Javier Fortuna. What do we learn here? That's what we're going to get into here for Rye Guy. Given, 8 million people, can't be wrong, on Instagram, given his enormous social following, King Rye has long been a star before he's been able to prove it inside the ring. Of course, he had a last year and a half that wasn't to script, with injuries, mental health challenges, a delay in him taking that next step from what we saw to open 2021, which was, at that point, the breakthrough performance of Ryan Garcia's career when he got up off the canvas to stop and ultimately retire Luke Campbell. It feels like it's been a long time in Ryan Garcia's life from that point. New trainer in Joe Goosen. That first comeback bout just 3 months ago against Emmanuel Tego, we didn't really learn what we were supposed to. So what do we learn here on this night? CryptoArena.com, whatever you want to call it. It's the Staples Centers to me, Los Angeles. Anything but a sellout. Looked very sort of half-filled there. That doesn't take away from the star potential here of what Ryan Garcia is building. And here's what's interesting. Going in there against a former champion in Javier Fortuna, I know a lot of you might be saying, hey, BC, I thought you said, this fight could be something. Well, it could have been, but don't miss how we set this up on Morning Combat. And, of course, let me redirect traffic here. One half, of course, of the Monday, Wednesday, Friday duo here alongside Luke Thomas. If you want some more Luke Thomas, he did one of these right now, the instant reaction that went out a little bit earlier this evening following UFC Fight Night on ABC there in Long Island. So check that out. Back to the box, though. Here's the deal ultimately for Rye Guy. A big part of how we handicapped Garcia Fortuna, not necessarily from a betting odds standpoint. That had Ryan Garcia minus 1,200. You saw that gap, which you often see in boxing, particularly when there's a younger fighter against an older one, even with the potential perceived danger in that matchup. This one had potential perceived danger if one or both of two things would happen. Ryan Garcia would continue some of those vulnerabilities that he teased against Luke Campbell, and or if Javier Fortuna at 33 could provide a legitimate challenge, could overcome the 3.5-inch height disadvantage, could really do some of the sharp counter punching that we've seen throughout his run across multiple divisions, and be that type of dangerous older fighter to test exactly where Ryan Garcia is at. But now that we know the result, TKO 6, just over 20 seconds into the round, now that we see consecutive knockdowns in rounds 4, 5, and 6 to finish it off, Ryan Garcia in the end didn't get that test that maybe we would have wanted to because of this version of Javier Fortuna that showed up, which I'll get to in a second. Certainly not prime Javier Fortuna. But even with that, and I don't want to overlook that, it's legitimate. Fortuna was a little bit soft in the belly. You didn't see that eye of the tiger until he got dropped in round 4. You finally saw him starting to dart left and right and put a little spice on the package, so to speak. It was, though, an older Javier Fortuna, a 33-year-old who looked much older in the build-up to this fight. He provided just enough of a test, but while the reason why I don't want to lean on that side of it is because Ryan Garcia took steps forward tonight, and I really want to make sure that we understand that and see that. The two words I want to use, poise, patience. That's what you need to see out of a young fighter who has potential chin questions, who has potential questions about his practices. Is he as dialed in training camp as he needs to be? Were those rumors, that not those rumors, the comments that came from Canelo Alvarez and Team Canelo, Eddie Reynoso, the trainer, after Ryan Garcia, under not the best circumstances last year, left that camp, and they questioned his work ethic. Would all of that stuff come out? No, this was an absolutely mature performance. And I think the difference between this fight and the Ryan Garcia we saw just 3 months ago against Emmanuel Tego was certainly the the levels of difference and danger between the two, because even as one-sided as this fight ultimately was, you saw Ryan Garcia in the post-fight comment say, well, hold on, Javier Fortuna does hit hard. He's got heavy fists. And I felt that. Tago didn't have that capability and that danger. So we saw an overly aggressive Ryan Garcia 3 months ago in his first fight with Joe Goosen. And that's why we carried over the potential expectations that things could get dicey in there. What would happen if you take a sublime offensive talent, Ryan Garcia, but one who's clearly not yet refined, and put him with a coach who pushes offense, aggression, fancy shirts, as the legend Joe Goosen? Their chemistry, the fruits of their marriage, I think really started to come out in this fight, because to see Ryan Garcia right in the opening round not take any of the baits and the feints that Javier Fortuna, the traps he tried to throw, and really just leaned into those physical advantages. When you have that type of height and reach against somebody, as Garcia ultimately did, you can really see the size difference between them. He utilized it, and that was the key. When he's able to hold distance, Garcia, against you, and then suddenly that combination of speed, which is his power. In this case, Ryan Garcia hits hard, but his speed is his power. It's scary speed. When you're able to do that from distance, as Garcia ultimately was, you're a much more dangerous fighter. It's harder. Your opponent has to take many more chances to try to get inside on you. Ultimately, in this one, Fortuna got close to the fire, looked like he was ready to take some chances. Before he knew it, he was sitting down on the canvas looking up and was sort of in a tough spot where he had to try to do anything. And those were the moments where we didn't get an over-anxious, over-aggressive Ryan Garcia opening doors for his crafty veteran opponent to try to start picking him apart. Really, from top to bottom, this was fairly flawless from Ryan Garcia. So this was the type of stuff I think we thought we were going to see against Emmanuel Tagoe. We didn't. It was a different kind of fight. It was one-sided, but it wasn't competitive at all. This one had pockets of competitiveness in a largely one-sided offering. But I think the combination of the respect Garcia had for Fortuna's punching power and the respect of what was going to be needed for Garcia in his own mind to do this safely, it came out to be a perfect formula for him. He looked very good. At 23, he looked mature in this one. And when you have that type of speed and power and you're able to control the terms, you're going to have the finishes like we saw right there. For anything I didn't love about the body language, the demeanor, a lot of the aura coming out of Fortuna in this one. And I think it's justified. This is not prime Javier Fortuna. It almost looked like he's out here looking for a paycheck. Now, he didn't stay down when he could have got up necessarily, although there was a little bit of no mas to that 6th round knockdown that finally ended it. I'm not saying he didn't try. I just don't think it was in him necessarily at this level anymore. So does it rob from what Ragai did? Again, no, but it's certainly part of the narrative and the storyline. But this is exactly what Ryan Garcia needed, what Golden Boy, his promoter, needed, what Dazn, who's really trying to, get behind him as one of their big faces, certainly alongside Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, what they needed for Garcia to take the next step toward those bigger fights. And obviously he used the words Gervonta Tank Davis. Tank already responded on Twitter. We can get to that in the end. But the biggest revelation and really takeaway from this is at 23, Garcia's already decided he's done at 135 pounds. What really wasn't overly reported this week is that Fortuna, as things got closer to this fight date, reached out to Team Garcia, wanted a little bit more wiggle room in the weight. Of course, these are two lightweights. We thought this would be a 135-pound bout. The official contracted catch weight, it seemed just even up to a couple days before the fight, it wasn't fully finalized. Well, we ended up finding out they agreed to a 140-pound fight. But to see Garcia not have to cut down to lightweight, and we know when you are, a young fighter and you're aggressively trying so hard to, shock the world and show people what you can do. For somebody like Garcia, whether or not the chin issues are a real thing, I mean, we've been taking a lot of mileage from this one knockdown against Luke Campbell, a very good fighter, not a puncher, but an Olympic gold medalist, Luke Campbell, a very good fighter who dropped Garcia hard in their fight to open 2021. It's not as if Garcia's had a ton of shaky issues outside of that, but it is hard to overlook coming in what was a lingering amount of questions. And if Ryan Garcia feels like fighting in the future at 140 as opposed to 135, and let's remember, look, We know lightweight right now is arguably the most fun division in boxing. I mean, heavyweights will be heavyweights, welterweight's the money division, but lightweight has the largest contingency of young fighters that appear ready right now to take over this damn sport. We talk about it all the time, but slowly a lot of these guys are starting to put on a few years, and naturally their body's getting bigger. Teofimo Lopez is going to make his debut at 140 later this year. Gervonta Davis at times is already talking about potentially moving up to 40. Devin Haney has all 4 titles right now at 135, but the future is going to be there anyway. So it was interesting to learn in the post-fight interview here that after they make this catch weight of 140 pounds, yet Garcia rehydrates, according to Chris Mannix of Dazn, all the way up to 157 come fight night. And again, you saw that physical difference between the two. Fortuna's still dangerous, but he's a blown-up featherweight in many ways. You're going to end up seeing Garcia in the prime of his career, at 147 pounds, at 154 pounds. So to see him now be this confident in the decision that he seems to have made, I mean, I think the direct quote afterwards was, "I'm not going down to 135 for nothing. Oh, but I will fight Tank, by the way, next at 140. Again, we'll get to that in a second." I think this is a smart decision for Ryan Garcia. Devin Haney is his amateur rival, if people don't know. They fought a lot in the amateurs. I forgot the exact number of times. Was it 6 times? Was it 8 times? I forgot. But they split the total amount of fights they had. They were both DAZN fighters for a while. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make that matchup. Well, now Devin Haney, despite showing up on the DAZN broadcast tonight, is over at ESPN and has the co-promotional deal with Lou DiBella and Top Rank. So that fight's not happening next anyway. And if you're going to make a super fight against Tank, who has a secondary title at 135, but not a real belt, all 4 of the real belts are held by Haney at the moment, then the weight doesn't necessarily matter for that. So from what I saw Ryan Garcia tonight at 140, you can see how uncompromised he was physically. This might be the weight division for him at 23, and it's no fault of his own. I mean, Oscar De La Hoya started at what he started 130, moving up to 135, having these huge fights, 140, 147, eventually all the way up to middleweight. It seems like a natural progression, and I don't think he's missing out on any type of big business by doing this. So when they did touch gloves and when they did get in there, along with the patience, along with the poise that I like from Ryan Garcia, it didn't take away from who he is offensively. I mean, again, it only amplified it. When he's able to control the terms of a fight and keep you at the end of that jab, and I know he's fighting a southpaw in Fortuna, and that's, again, part of the reason why we thought if things started to go wrong, a guy like Fortuna can make him go really wrong, right? If he starts taking a bite and he's got an opportunity to get you out of there, he could. He didn't. I don't even know if he had the motivation yet tonight. But if he can't get inside of that jab of Garcia, it was going to be a long night, and it was. And the fact that it was southpaw against righty didn't even matter in this one. In fact, Ryan Garcia established right off the bat how quick that lead right hand was, and that's the punch that's available to an orthodox fighter against a southpaw. Floyd Mayweather, really the second half of his career when he became more of a pot shotter, the master at the lead right hand, of getting that off quick and hits harder than it hits harder than a jab. It's a hard punch to pull off to cross over your body and lead like that. But Garcia was tagging Fortuna with that. So that combination of height, speed, and power was going to be too much. You add in the patience and the poise that I talked about. Fortuna not coming in the best of shape. Well, he also stopped really moving early in round 2. I like the foot movement early on from Fortuna, because if he's going to be that stingy veteran, he's not going to outwork Garcia. Right? You're not going to win a ton of rounds in that regard. He's going to have to hope he can hurt him, drop him, do something to shift the momentum of this fight. But all those factors ultimately went against him. And some of that may have been his own doing. I mean, again, he didn't look like the type of prime shape. He looked more like a aging fighter who was once a name, who found another opportunity for a big payday to close out his career and took it. And that might be harsh, but you hear Garcia in the pre-fight interview saying, I was supposed to fight Fortuna a year ago, and now he's in my DMs calling me, begging for this fight, so I thought I'd give it to him. I think in hindsight, in totality here, this was the right opponent at the right time, but it wasn't the right version of Javier Fortuna at the right time. And, not enough to completely change the narrative, not enough to make this the type of exercise that the Emmanuel Tago fight was, where we just didn't really learn anything. At the very least, Garcia came back quickly from that return 3 months ago, and there was, again, a lot of pressure on that return from the absence of being off for so long, a career-long layoff, the surgery, the Canelo drama. I mean, all that BS. Well, he put it behind him that night and had a one-sided win for as little opposition as he got. But even though the opposition also wasn't as strong this time, if he didn't have the performance in Ryan Garcia that he had, you couldn't give him this level of praise. But he had all those factors going for him, including not having to cut to 35, by the way, which was Fortuna's idea. And on top of that, he shined, he dazzled. So I don't know how much longer. And look, again, this wasn't the ultimate test where we got everything answered, right? That's only going to come in a real fight against an elite foe when Garcia, gets hurt early and has to come back, or gets down early in terms of on the cards and has to make adjustments. That wasn't part of the narrative tonight. But tonight did end, I think, and I hope, really, because Ryan Garcia can be a guy that's easy to say things about because he lives his life so outwardly, the shirt off, singing, girls all over. I mean, he lives a life a lot of us can sort of look at and be like, damn. But the kid can fight too. And I've never questioned the heart on him. I questioned the chin, the recuperativeness. Again, he's going to have to prove that to us. But I never questioned the heart, and I never questioned that gunslinger mentality. And I think, at the very least, all that was there tonight. And I'm glad. And I think moving forward, we do have to recalibrate how we sort of handicap and look at him. Now, look, the odds makers didn't have a problem handicapping this. Ultimately, what they said was true. A one-sided fight. And those 3 knockdowns were all legit and all said a lot. It was the left hook to the body in round 4, which completely changed the tenor of the fight if it hadn't already been changed, because you saw Fortuna. So, I mentioned Fortuna stopped moving early in round 2. And once he did, it became a sitting duck he stood on the end of Garcia's jab and he became a sitting duck in many ways. He started to step it up, meaning Fortuna, after he got dropped in round 4. And to be fair, and they said it on the broadcast, a shout out to Sergio Mora for nailing that. He started to get a little more reckless, maybe because he didn't want another body shot. That's why the hands were dropped. That's why he's darting left and right. Only that was going to be the type of attack and style and variety he was going to need to give Garcia any issues. In this case, in round 4, he started to do it more out of desperation. It didn't ultimately lead to any big time offense. But in round 5, 1 round later, when they did trade shots at the same time, both left hands, you saw the difference in the power from the younger, taller, longer, faster, stronger, hungrier opponent in Garcia. They both land at the same time, yet it's that sweeping little check hook. And I know the DAZN broadcast was big on talking about Garcia's left hand being like a whip. Look, Garcia's left hand is nasty. He may be ultimately like a young Oscar De La Hoya, who, let's not forget, De La Hoya, natural southpaw, purposely fought righty so he can have his better and lead hand, his jab and hook hand be his main weapon. It took Oscar De La Hoya a long time, let's be fair, to develop that right cross, that right hand as a weapon. Garcia's a little bit like that in his young career. The left hand is his go-to fight punch, is his moneymaker. And when Fortuna decided to punch with him in round 5, that's when you saw things fall apart. Now, punching with a younger, faster fighter is not the worst idea. How did Juan Manuel Marquez have success timing Manny Pacquiao, especially young, explosive, ridiculous hurricane storm force Manny Pacquiao? He wasn't faster than Manny, but he could time him. Timing and throwing at the same time as Garcia is as dangerous thing you can do with a gunslinger. But again, it's also the best way to check that chin. It's also that best way to try to turn the fight in your favor. You're gonna have to take a big shot, but you have the ability to land one because the defense is a little bit of a lapse when he's releasing. The problem with this one was that Garcia just landed better, quicker, and that dropped Fortuna to his bottom. And then after round 5, I thought they were going to stop it in the corner. Fortuna's team imploring him. You heard during the translation of, "Can you work? Can you work? Can you work?" I mean, it took 3 urgings to get Fortuna to just, make a grunt sound. So you wondered if they were just going to stop it right there. It looked like a wounded old soldier ready to go. And then in the 6th round, one more left hook. Fortuna spitting out the mouthpiece again. 27 seconds in, no mas. It is over. It's a good-ass win for Ryan Garcia. And his star level and his ability to get into, beefs, trash talk wars, right? Like he's the golden goose that every fighter looks at as, oh, man, he's got, he'll market the fight. He'll bring the money. He's the matinee idol. but they look at him and they see weakness. And again, you watch the Luke Campbell tape, until he rallied to get the big knockout, there was weakness, but the weakness wasn't there tonight. So Ryan Garcia is going to end up in a big fight, an elite fight, a tough fight, probably before he has the necessary experience to, like, I don't want to say justify it, but to fully force us to take our foot off of that, e-brake and just say, okay, 50-50. Now, if it's Tank as the next matchup, because they're both gunslingers, you'll see more people giving Garcia a nod. Look, Tank will be the rightful favorite. The experts in the end will say Tank, but you'll get enough people saying Garcia because he's tall and long and he goes after it. But now that he's going to slowly start to, if he can keep this momentum going of removing those fears with performances like this, the sky's still the limit. I mean, you still can't look at him and say finished product. No, you still can't look at him. I mean, he's 23. You still can't look at him and say, not without serious vulnerabilities. No, I mean, some fighters never remove those serious vulnerabilities, and they're still going to be there because he's putting it together. But it was really good to see him and Joe Goossen work so well together. It didn't look like Ryan Garcia was attempting to assign to himself a style that he wasn't comfortable with. It actually looked like that style fit very well. And again, you can keep a guy that sublimely offensive talented on that leash, in that cage, as Joe Goossen did. This kid's going to be very dangerous, and whether it's smart or not, he's going to end up in a big fight because the demand is there. And I think Ryan Garcia also really wants the smoke, and you have to love and respect that about him. Now, when his promoter Oscar De La Hoya says certain things, that's when you got to have the grain of salt. That's promoter speak, Oh, we'd love to have Tank. We'd love to fight Tank. Hey, Tank, we'll wire you $30 million tomorrow. I mean, you've seen Oscar say that a few times, and we'll do it on our network. I don't know how we're going to get a Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis 2 network pay-per-view in the near future. I say I'm happy at how outward Ryan Garcia has been and was after beating Fortuna and looking into the camera and saying, and I think I got the quote, exactly right here. When he said he was done with 135, he said, I will fight Tank next. If he wants it, let's get it, because that's going to give me the respect I deserve. I'm never afraid. I have a spirit of competition in me, and you will see that when I fight Tank and I whip his ass. That's what you want to hear. That's exactly what you want to hear out of him. So the combination of that mixed with Tank instantly tweeting in response to that something to the degree of, let's get it on, whatever the exact tweet was, it brings you a little more optimism than what I showed on Friday's Morning Combat episode, which was anything but optimism. And you say, BC, why? Well, you hear Steven Espinoza of Showtime in print telling Boxing Scene, just a few months ago, I don't see anything that DAZN brings to the table. I don't think we need a 2 network pay-per-view here. Ryan Garcia he's not a DAZN fighter. He's a Golden Boy fighter. It's Golden Boy that has the deal there. And that's true, but I don't think that necessarily means that Ryan Garcia is not a Golden Boy fighter or not a DAZN fighter. I mean, that's one of their, that's one of the main reasons why Golden Boy just got their contract renewed with DAZN, because Ryan Garcia is a DAZN fighter. Does it have to be a 2 network pay-per-view deal to work? I think it does. But despite what Espinoza said, can it still be done? I want to remain optimistic. In fact, Ryan Garcia was asked in that interview afterwards, there are a lot of politics in this game. There's multiple networks and promoters involved in a fight like this. Can it be done? What about the people that say it can't? What about BC that says, I don't know about it this calendar year? Garcia's quote was, where there's a will, there's a way. I have to say, there's a lot not to love about Ragai's shtick, and some of it's rooted in sort of a natural jealousy, especially if you're a washed 40-something-year-old guy like me and you see this young guy with not the best tattoos, but just, flaunting it and walking around. But he's saying the right things. I mean, let's give him that credit. He's staying optimistic. He's not leaning on, they have to come to my network. No, he's saying, I want this fight. I believe in God. All praise to the Lord above, if he guides me. And Ryan had a long speech in there about how much right now, he's listening to the Lord in his own words. And if that's the fight, in theory, God wants to make, then it will happen. And I think, all things considered, that's the spot he should be in. We shouldn't lean behind the politics like even I just did, and saying, I'm not really sure how we get this fight. How about we just sit back and see if it can get made? What's in its favor is if you're going to make a 2-network pay-per-view fight involving young fighters like this, they got to be stars to justify it. I mean, you're going to, no one's going to get into a pay-per-view that they can't make money on, right? Can you make money on this? Well, Tank is, among the biggest stars in the sport. You see what he can do selling out arenas. You see what he can do consistently with pay-per-views, not spectacular pay-per-view numbers, but consistently building. Ryan Garcia's got the kind of social media following that very few athletes, forget fighters, athletes have, outside of the very elite of team sports. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt the potential that they both have those type of platforms. Would I want this fight? Are you freaking kidding me? Who wouldn't want this fight? And what you have to love about this fight is said it 6 months ago, said it 2 years ago, we'll say it again. Skills for skill. I think you're going to favor Tank Davis. He's a better boxer. He's more proven at a higher elite level on a more consistent basis, of course. Ryan Garcia is bigger and longer and does have sublime speed and does have big one-punch power because of that speed. If you did a fight like this at 140, I don't think it'd be 50-50 like the DAZN broadcast was saying, but I also don't think you can enter a fight that fun on paper and legitimately say to yourself, I firmly believe one person will win by knockout. These are two gunslingers, and I think that size difference and, as elite as Tank is, and, I've got him right at the end of my pound for pound top 10, and he's proving that across all different types of opponents and all different types of performances. But for everything that Ryan Garcia hasn't yet proven that he is, what he has proven is that he's dangerous as shit. He's absolutely dangerous as shit. Quick combination punching with stinging power and the will to let his hands go. That warrior spirit that he showed against Luke Campbell. Again, I've been as harsh as you can be on Ryan Garcia's long-term potential. And when I say long-term, I only mean critically. Commercially, he's going to be a reality show. Whatever he does, we're going to watch, right? I mean, whether he implodes, whether he explodes, we're going to watch. But, long-term, I've been very harsh. I said with the lack of commitment to head movement and defense compared to the gusto he shows in his willingness offensively, that's a dicey ratio right there. But so when I say that, it's harsh, and I ultimately say, look, eventually the guy's going to get splattered, because when you are a gunslinger on that level, they catch up to you, right? But even gunslingers like the great Terry Norris, who sometimes a young Ryan Garcia gets comparisons to, Terry Norris is in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He may have been a gunslinger who could get caught from time to time with one punch, but that type of style wins big fights too. And that's why, the entertainment side of me would love the idea for Ryan Garcia to get into a fight as big and important as one, where 23-year-old star takes on 27-year-old star and Tank Davis, where we really don't have all the answers yet. And again, as much of a step forward as this performance was, and it was, Rye Guy, take the flowers. You deserved it. It was a mature poise. For the most part, 9/10, Garcia closed any door of a Fortuna potential rally, closed any door of, I made this big unforced error and it brought my opponent back. That wasn't even there tonight. It was a step forward. But I like the idea of him going into a dangerous fight without us fully knowing for sure, because that also means his opponent doesn't fully know for sure. That also means he himself, Ryan Garcia, doesn't know for sure how great he can be or also how vulnerable he can be. Tank versus Rye Guy, that thing would be a hell of a build, trash talk wise, social media wise, but it'd be fireworks come fight night. So anybody out there that is listening, that has a hand in making this fight, you're worried about, you're clearly not worried about the fan in BC, but does the fan in BC want this and wants to advocate? The fan in BC is not even here right now, sitting in front of this microphone at 12:45 a.m. in rural Connecticut. The fan in BC is already lined up trying to get tickets to that fight. So, fucking A right. My pocket's looking kind of tight. Make this fight. Make this dream fight. Yeah, baby. As it pertains to the viability of a fight like this, again, you're going to need both networks. It's just what it is. Not Showtime and PBC aren't going to say, "Oh yeah, Tank, go have a nice one-off on DAZN for your biggest fight of your career." Just like on the flip side, Golden Boy and DAZN wouldn't do the same. But we did see. I can't believe I went from pessimistic completely optimistic in much of a turn. Why? Probably because Garcia did answer some certain key questions tonight. So because we did see that, we are in a fun 2-3 year run right now in boxing. Knock on a few things, but would you? I would knock on a few things, but we're on a hell of a run right now. And in that hell of a run, we had a couple 2-network pay-per-views. Heck, we had PBC saying, "Go ahead, Sean Porter, you can go over to ESPN and fight Terrence Crawford on pay-per-view. Go ahead." Like, that doesn't happen every day. We are seeing a stupid amount of undisputed opportunities lately, which is great for the sport. One face, one champion, one division. Yeah, that's how you make and build and sustain an environment where new boxing fans want to become permanent, long-form boxing fans. Maybe I need to go back and put that optimistic hat on and be the real BC, right? Who does believe in miracles? Yeah, I don't think it's a miracle, though, if this fight gets made. I mean, we're at more or less the midpoint of 2022 right now. 2021 was a great year. 2020 was a pandemic, right? It was boxing was one of those sports that took a while. We had the Top Rank Closet series. We had the Eddie Hearn Backyard series. We were off for a while. But could you imagine what the second half of this year could look like if we get Usyk Joshua in August, which we're getting? Jake Paul back in a fight that you kind of want to see against, Rockman, August 6th, Showtime pay-per-view. Yeah, I kind of want to see that. Crawford Spence talked about for the fall. Okay. Tim Tszyu, Jermell Charlo. Now we're talking about that for January of 2023, right around the corner for all 4 belts. Okay. Talking about Stephen Fulton against Akhmadaliev, another fight that would need some sort of political wrangling or easing to make happen, but another 4-belt unification we're talking about. We had Taylor Serrano this year, and it exceeded expectations. Can we get Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis to close the year in some type of stupidly large 2-network pay-per-view? I mean, just 2 days ago, I told you, don't hold your breath. But I will have to say this. Anytime you have scenarios like this where you've got egos and posturing and multiple networks and promoters and, sides of the street, you don't even move off this conversation unless there's enough money in the pot, again, to make money on a pay-per-view. Are we there yet with these two? Yeah. They're both undefeated. They're both in their prime. This isn't after prime. If anything, it's like pre-full prime. It's a dream to get them to fight each other at this point. So financially, I think we'd be okay. I don't know all the financials, but I think we'd be okay. But can everybody make nice? I'd have to believe that whether you are the trainer, promoter, or network or manager behind either fighter, again, with the gunslinging element of this fight, you might really like your fighter's chances. Do I still like Tank Davis on paper over Ryan Garcia? Hell yeah. But tonight, Ryan Garcia went in the direction he needed to make talk of this fight next or this year or what have you more viable. Yeah, he did. He had that kind of performance tonight. He had an old dog in there. Didn't bite much. Didn't get a chance to bite much. Took care of the old Yeller that shit. So, right guy's coming on. I don't know. I don't know how good he can be. I don't know how reliable he'll be. I do know reliable entertainment. Yeah. I do know the intention of going to win each fight. Yeah, the kid's coming. So who knows? Who knows? Just maybe. But not a bad night at the office here in the old box. Ryan Garcia gets it done. TKO 6, 27 seconds into the round, 3 knockdowns. He had a glass of red wine in the ring afterwards. I don't know what that was all about, but shout out to Golden Boy there. It's not quite Ricardo Mayorga with the cigarette and can of beer after upset knocking out Vernon Forrest, but it is something right there. I don't believe in superstitions. Knock on a few things, knock on wood, knock on, how about you knock on my phoner? Because this is a hell of a year in boxing. Maybe the rich can get richer. Maybe we can get all we want. Maybe once in a while, if you try sometimes, you just might find, right? Get what you need. I need this fight. Tank doesn't really have another dance partner at the moment. Teofimo's rebuilding. Loma's probably going to come back looking for Haney or, what have you. Shakur Stevenson's not at 135 yet. Tank versus Ragai is actually the best fight you can make for both of them right now. Wow. Wow, BC. Wow. Thank you, Box. Thank you. You brought it. You brought it tonight. So, if you're a fan, you want this performance out of Ragai. We got it. So we'll see what he can do with it moving forward. You see the little social handles below. If you like what you hear on Morning Kombat, either tonight on the instant analysis of Garcia Fortuna, check out Luke Thomas, my partner in crime, of course, earlier this evening, the UFC on ABC, instant analysis recap. But subscribe. We do live shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. The best interviews in the game. And nobody does side shit like we do. I mean, it's an award-winning podcast, so I probably could sit here and stare into the camera with really awkwardly and brag to you guys and, throw shots and warnings at my competition. I watch what you guys do. I mean, it was nice. It ain't MK. Okay? Tune into a high court. Tune into a documentary, a resume review, a pregame preview. Tune into BC's Feces every Monday, okay? We got all that and then some. Tall, pale, and handsome, but just one half. I'm just that other dude, right? I'm just the co-host. MK's coming on. So why don't you join the party? Thank you very much for taking this journey with me this evening. Producer Mikey Morms, we got anything else? You got any questions from the fans, or can I put a bonnet on this bad boy? All right. Yeah. Well, this is your boy BC, the beige one, signing off. Ryan Garcia gets it done tonight. Yeah. My sport don't suck. What a time to be alive. Take care of yourselves, folks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We out.